Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Your Boom is in the Shot. I'm TJ.
Oh, I'm Ben.
Yeah, that's Ben. So this is a very special episode for a couple of reasons. The first is that this is our very first episode to launch on podcasting services. Our entire back catalog is now on podcasting services, but it was originally released to YouTube. This episode and some episodes probably for at least the next few months will still be on YouTube as well. But if you're somebody like me who prefers to listen to podcasts on podcasting services such as iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, or any other podcast service you can think of that's significant, we're there now. So rejoice. And as always, you can find us on Instagram at YourBoomIsInTheShot. And you can email us at YourBoomIsInTheShot@gmail.com. Send us your questions, your concerns, your love, your hate, whatever you want, guys.
Send us your raging anger.
Yeah.
You did not like the episode. You don't like our voices. You don't like our faces. You've never seen them, but you don't like them. Email us. Let us know.
Yeah, send us some digital cyanide, guys. Okay. So, and even after we stop posting the episodes on YouTube, I just want to make the point clear that we're definitely still going to be using the YouTube channel. In fact, we're going to be uploading tons of other cool types of episodes, more on that in the future. So, YouTube, we ain't going anywhere.
We love you.
Yes, we love you. And our YouTube audience, we love you. Our podcast audience, that's going to hopefully become a thing. We love you too. But without further ado, our topic for today is Game of Thrones!
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones tonight, guys.
This is my favorite show ever.
Probably mine too. I you're wearing your Game of Thrones t-shirt right now.
Fuck yes,
I want to let
I
you know,
am.
I think it's awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
I actually don't have a Game of Thrones shirt, which is kind of tragic because
But you have all the books.
I have all the books.
I don't.
And I have some other cool stuff too. I actually have a set of Game of Thrones licensed glasses.
Nice.
They have the Targaryen symbol on one side and the Stark direwolf symbol on the other.
That's badass.
And the cool part of it is the top half of is glass and it has like the frosted sigils on it. The bottom half of the glass is actually the texture of the dragon eggs. Yes. Which is pretty cool.
Every morning you can just sip on a Song of Ice and Fire right there. But so this is the very first episode of our Game of Thrones 2-episode special for our Game of Thrones week. That's the other reason why this episode is significant. The second part will be releasing this Friday, and it will chronicle our hopes and our predictions for Season 8, the final season. It's all come to this, guys, so that's going to be pretty intense and awesome, so stay tuned for that. Or tune in again.
Yeah. Oh, and let us know your theories. Email us. We might we'll talk about, if we hear from you, we'll talk about it on the show.
Yeah, for sure. Shout them out. That would be awesome. This part, however, has nothing to do with season 8. This is remembering all these seasons past in the best way we could think. That is to
top 10 countdown.
Right. Countdowns have returned to Your Boom is in the Shot after a long absence. We haven't done them since our Halloween special, so it's been
half
a long time coming.
I don't know, something like that.
yeah, something like that. I don't know. Time. It wasn't an easy list, honestly. Like, there's a lot easier things to rank like this, and the thing is, Game of Thrones is such a good show. Like, it's such it's just always so good that, like, you could literally pick any 10 episodes from the show and defend them, like, justifiably.
Yeah. I can't think of an episode off the top of my head that I think is bad.
No, there isn't a bad episode. There are better episodes, but there are no bad episodes. They're all at least good, if not spectacular, amazing television.
Which we tried to get our top 10 filled with those spectacularly amazing ones.
But all that being said, this is our pick. This is our top 10s. These aren't like objectively the best 10. They're just our picks.
If you disagree with us, let us know why.
Yeah, let us know.
Send us what your top 10 is and why.
Your Boom is in the Shot at gmail.com. I will say it again. All right.
Also, like and subscribe as long as we're still
guys.
Like and surprise like us, but also surprise us.
I'm just gonna keep plugging the show you're currently listening to.
If that's not the most annoying thing ever. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. But anyway, spoiler alert for pretty much the entire series up through season 7.
If you're watching this top 10 best episodes countdown, you probably know that there's going to be some spoilers.
Yeah, but still, I want to warn you guys, because if there's any of you who have been listening to this point and go, I don't care if I get spoiled. Listen, like, this is a show you don't want to get spoiled. Like, you want to experience this thing, like, for yourself. Trust me. So if you haven't seen this, I'm cautioning you to tune out now.
Yeah. At the very least, if you were dead certain you're like, oh, I don't care, I'm never gonna watch it, or I don't care if I get spoilers. By the time we finish with our first on the list, you're gonna want to turn off.
Yeah, and honestly, if nothing else, I hope we at least convince you to go check it out if you haven't.
Yeah, so, absolutely, go check it out.
Again, spoiler alert. Here it is. So honorable mentions, right? Like I said, this was a hard top 10 to get down to. So we did have we had like an original list of about like 14 or so, and we kind of whittled it down to 10, and then we kind of ranked them from there. So the 4 that didn't make the cut are season 2, episode 9, Blackwater. That's the Battle of Blackwater, where Stannis's men try to sack King's Landing, and Tyrion stops them with the wildfire. And
yeah, that one was really close. I mean, that was you were pushing hard for that one. I think,
I know. Beginning. And then Cersei almost poisons Tommen when she thinks that they're going to lose. Remember?
Oh,
and the Hound also says "fuck the king."
Oh yeah,
Joffrey, epic.
Yeah, because we love that's when we first really fall in love with the Hound. Yeah. I think up till that point we're kind of like who.
And that was also the show's first like big like lots of money spent on CGI sequence with the wildfire explosion.
Oh yeah, that was dope.
Significant for that too, because the show is known for like these massive sequences now, but back then it was still a growing show. It didn't really have the money to do that yet.
Tyrion also gets his iconic scar in that episode.
Tyrion gets his scar.
So it was a good episode. I mean, it was riveting. They're always riveting. Every episode of the show is like, flying by the seat of your pants, like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next?
Another one is the season 3, episode 7, The Bear and the Maiden Fair. That's the one where Jaime has that amazing scene with Brienne in the bathtub where he just bears his heart for her to hear.
I think the only reason why this didn't really make it on the cut is because it just wasn't as spectacular. As
just the other 10 just beat it.
I mean, it's like a memorable moment in the series, but just not quite the same as some of the shows on our top 10.
Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who plays Jaime, it's just some of the most amazing acting I've ever seen.
Jaime is an amazing character. We stand Jaime. Yeah. Jaime's awful. We love him.
Yes. But also Gwendolyn Christie as Brienne of Tarth with her facial expressions in the scene, just acting with no dialogue is just incredible.
Oh my god.
Incredible in the whole show.
So amazing.
But incredible in this scene.
And she's an amazing actor in general, really like in everything she's in. I've never seen her in something and been like, oh, she could have done better.
Yeah.
She's just
I think I've only seen her as Brienne of Tarth and in the new Star Wars movies. She's the silver whatever. She's not a super consequential character, but she still shows up and is badass. Another episode that almost made it was season 7, episode 6, Beyond the Wall. That's the episode where the
A-Team
Brotherhood
episode.
Without Banners, the A-Team, the Avengers. They Jon Snow, the
Gendry,
Brotherhood Without Banners, Gendry, and the Hound.
The Hound,
they go to try to capture
our favorite misfit badasses, all band together in a expedition beyond the wall.
There were so many memes of that, of like RPG games of like the team and their stats when they were like getting out there. When there was like the trailer for that episode, but
they forgot their caster. That was their big problem. Wait, they had the Red Priest guy.
Oh, Thoros Amir, who dies in this episode. So Beric Dondarrion no longer has his like free revival card. Yeah, it's done.
I mean, maybe Melisandre could do it,
but
I don't know.
She can't
why
get
would
near
she?
John or Davos,
right. So why would she?
Right.
Anyway, let's go on to our last notable mention. Then we can get into the
also want to say
episode.
before this is also the episode where Rhaegal, Viserion gets killed by the Night King,
turned into the ice dragon.
Yes, arisen as an ice dragon, which he uses in the next episode to take down the wall.
That was wild.
Season 4, episode 10, The Children, is the final honorable mention that almost made the list. That a lot of cool stuff happens in that episode. That's the one, first of all, where Tyrion kills Shay and Tywin.
Yeah, I mean that in and of itself, like that was.
Yeah, it's also where the Hound and Arya encounter Brienne of Tarth and Pod, and they have that epic little fight, and Arya leaves the Hound.
Man, that was a close one. I mean, that really almost made it. I think that episode was just a great episode.
Yeah,
like we were talking about this before the show started. It didn't make our top 10, but like, I feel like Shay's betrayal was heart-wrenching.
Yeah,
and I didn't see it coming. And as a series long fan of Tyrion, like I'm sure most of you are, I was like, I felt his pain.
Yeah,
I felt his pain.
No, that was bad. Like, it's like not only did she betray him in his his trial, but then she fucked his dad.
Yes,
who wanted to kill him.
Yes,
who wanted to have him killed.
And then
for a crime he knows he
Yep.
didn't commit.
Yep. And then he came back and he got his justice.
Yeah,
which,
right
as
on the
painful
shitter.
as it was, but yeah, right on the shitter. It's true.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get right into the actual
Yes.
top 10 list.
So the first pick, number 10, is the series premiere, season 1, episode 1. Winter is coming.
This was almost an honorable mention.
It almost was, but it just felt like, it's not a particularly amazing episode, at least in terms of compared to what we know now with all the other episodes on this list and the spectacle we've seen, the amazing character feats that the show has had to this day. But at the time, it was really groundbreaking for its time and for the show in general. It really set the stakes with things like the prologue. First of all, like the first thing you see in the show is like this guy who we find out is a member of the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
Coming across these like severed heads on spikes and stuff, and then seeing these like creatures, and it's terrifying, and it instantly hooks you.
For sure.
It's just a crazy like cold opening.
I will say, I mean, so many things happen in that episode that are like really significant.
Well, the direwolf pups, you were talking about that earlier. You were really like getting into that, the significance of the pups to each of the children, particularly to John.
And the wolf, and the fact that it was killed by the stag.
Yeah,
and
the stag, the Baratheons.
And Ned was killed by the Baratheons. I mean, really by the Lannisters, but by the Baratheons. And I mean, the foreshadowing that happens in the first episode is crucially important, and it sets the whole plot into motion. I mean, it's the beginning of Dany.
This is where, it's beginning of Dany. It's true, and also this is when Robert Baratheon comes to Winterfell and asks Ned to be his hand.
Right, and I will say the most like shocking thing. Happened in television to me at that point. Up until that point in my life, I had never seen something so insane happen on screen.
All right, so again, I'm assuming everyone listening right now has watched it, but literally Jaime Lannister, who we all love now.
Right. We love him now.
We love him now, but don't forget, in this episode, this guy in one fell swoop pulls his dick out of his sister and then pushes a small child out of a high window, presumably to his death.
Yeah.
And we love that guy now.
We do.
We love that guy now.
And that's how you know the show is amazing, because the journey that we've gone on.
Yeah.
In a show that really isn't about Jaime. Like, I mean, it's about so much more than his character.
But his arc is such an important part. His redemption.
Absolutely.
Lannister,
and we could talk. We could do a whole episode on Jaime Lannister. I think we could do a whole episode on probably every character in the show.
Studies. I'd be down for that.
Maybe that's something we could go on our YouTube. Yeah. Yep. So let us know if that's something you guys are interested in.
Yeah.
I will say another thing that happens in episode 1. So I'm gonna admit, guys, I started watching Game of Thrones when I was in middle school, a middle school boy, and I will tell you right now, one of the things that kept me to the end of that episode was Emilia Clarke's tits. I'm sorry. That's an awful thing to say.
I am.
But it's true. I was a little like middle school kid, and I was watching this show. And
she's hot, man.
And I think that ties into a thing with Game of Thrones that I wanna actually talk about. Yeah. So there's a lot of people have this idea of Game of Thrones because of that first season. It's
with a lot of exposition and sex.
Sexposition. And there's a lot of gratuitous nudity and sex. And I don't have a problem with it. And as an adult, I think that there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, I agree. It makes it feel gritty and real and dirty, and
it wasn't sanitized.
Yes.
And that was one of the benefits of being on like a paid
HBO.
channel.
Yeah. But I do think that it's turned a lot of people off to the show because they're like, oh, well, it's just like
that's their loss.
Sex.
I mean, that's kind of missing the forest for the trees.
But honestly, if that's one of you out there and you're listening to this, kind of trying to get a feel for what the show really is, I want to let you know that is such a small part.
It really, really is, especially now. I mean, the last few seasons, like sex has had very little consequence, if any at all. Especially like the last season.
And when it's happened, it's been sort of implied or
it's just been really like tasteful and like held back, like when Jon Snow is having sex with his aunt. With his aunt, who neither of them know are they related, but they have sex nonetheless because this show just can't go a long time without incest. But when you were getting at that, Ben, I thought you were going to be like, this is also where Jon Snow agrees to go join Benjen as a member of the Night's Watch, and then he has this really poignant moment with Ned.
Oh,
you know,
I mean, I
talked about his mother someday, and then you're like, nah, Amelia's titties.
Amelia's titties. All right, that, like I said, that's a terrible thing to say, but
right.
that is like one of the things that got me watching the show.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned that moment with Benjen. That's a turning point in the show. I forgot about that until you just mentioned it now. But that's a point in the show where Ned came within seconds of telling John the whole truth about
when he says the
is.
next time I see you I will tell you about your mother,
and then they don't
never sees him again,
right? And it's so fucking heartbreaking because the whole course of that show could have been different had that not happened, which is one of the reasons why the show is so great. I mean, they know
Targaryen.
Exactly how to pull your strings.
So that episode, I don't think we can really go too deep. Well, we could, but into the cinematography and things like that. 'Cause it's not really super special for any of those things. It just kind of
it's an important episode, and I think the most significant thing that happens is the Jaime Lannister pushing Bran out of the tower, and how shocking that was.
I agree. And then it also it kind of started everything, but it also really started that trend of something shocking happening and then it cutting to black.
Oh yeah, and then not just a cliffhanger, like something like
where you're like, whoa, like it's happened so many times throughout the series. That's just the first example, and there's a few other examples on this list that are like that, like the next episode. Number 9 on our list is season 4, episode 8, The Mountain and the Viper.
Oh my goodness, what an episode!
This is the one with the fight between Oberyn and the Mountain. Which is also Tyrion's trial by combat for the crime he didn't commit of killing Joffrey.
So I'm going to tell you right now,
head explosion.
By the time this episode was aired, I was totally like Tyrion for Iron Throne. He's my favorite. I'm with him. He's my man. Like Daenerys is awesome, right? She's sweet. She's great. She's going to do great things. But Tyrion, Tyrion is so smart and so deserving and so humble and so badass all at the same time. And Oberyn, who was just one of the coolest, he was an iconic character. Like I was so like, I want to be like him.
That whole season up until that episode, like because he fucking dies. You're just like, this guy is awesome.
He's so cool.
He's
just like pansexual icon who's just like, I'm gonna run around, like I'm better than all of you, and I don't care.
I'm rich and sexy, and I can fight like a motherfucker.
Yeah,
like, I'm just gonna fuck everything. Like whatever. We're here for a good time, not a long time.
Right.
That's this guy's whole motto.
Yeah, with the exception of the one thing that is his foil, which is that
he hates the Lannisters.
He hates, and more specifically, he hates the Mountain.
Because the Mountain, as I was talking to you about earlier, Ben, killed his sister and her kids, and they were, so his sister was married to Rhaegar Targaryen, Jon Snow's real father, and Daenerys's brother.
Yeah.
So those were Rhaegar's kids, Jon's half-siblings, and Daenerys's, nieces or nephews or whatever. I'm not sure what their sexes were, but
yeah,
yeah.
And I remember that the scene when Oberyn dies. I mean, that's
practical effects are incredible.
Oh my god,
of the head.
And
there's so much that
God,
went into
that was gut wrenching.
Yeah,
and for so many reasons. Like first of all, you were mentioning the siblings. He dances around and he kind of he kills himself in that he had the Mountain beat. He is the true. I mean, maybe the only match for Jaime Lannister in the entire show.
He actually kills the Mountain.
Well, yeah.
Like, he gets saved him. But he gets saved and turned into like half zombie by Qyburn.
Yeah.
So he kind of wins still.
I mean,
but also loses.
But he gets his head crushed because after he poisons the Mountain in the fight, he assumes that he's won, and he goes on this tirade. He's like, "I want you to apologize. You killed her, you raped her, and you murdered her children," and like. In that order, and he's like yelling that at the Mountain, like, you submit to me, and the Mountain, a big oafish monster of a psychopathic man, refuses to submit. And just when Oberyn is convinced that nothing can go wrong, he gets his head crushed. Like the tables get turned and he gets his head crushed and they both die.
And this is another one of those, like I said, like that cut to black shock where like, cause you're rooting for Oberyn and you're like, oh yeah, he's got him. Because
you're also rooting for Tyrion.
Yeah, because you're rooting for, like Tyrion is by this point a favorite character for everybody.
Yes.
And you're like, yeah, okay, so like this has got to happen. And then he dies in the most brutal way possible. And then his lover, Alaria Sand, screams this iconic blood curdling scream. And you just see Tyrion's reaction and it's just cut.
Yep.
And you're like,
But you were, one of the things I thought was really, and we missed this when we just started bringing up the episode, but one of the things that's crazy about that fight, and one of the reasons why Oberyn is so cool and why that episode is so interesting, is that we don't know what he's going to do right through the whole season. Like he's there, he's doing his weird Dornish thing, and he's kind of like, an
I hate the
interesting
Lannisters.
right, and he's got his interesting like sort of influence on the politics of the palace and the palace court. And when the trial for Tyrion comes, we're not sure what's going to happen. It's like, oh, it's going to be trial by combat. How is Tyrion going to fight his way out of this?
Yep.
And then Oberyn volunteers to fight for him because he wants to kill the Mountain.
Yep.
And it's like
the only thing he hates more than the Lannisters is the Mountain.
Right.
Yeah.
And he also, I think he
sympathizes with Tyrion.
Yeah,
we talked about that earlier because there's that scene, I believe it's in this episode as well, where he's talking to Tyrion in like the cell that Tyrion's in, and he's like, yeah, remember when you were a baby and Cersei told me that like she had this monster baby brother that killed her mom, and then she showed me the baby and I was like, that's not a monster, that's just a baby.
Yeah.
It's just a normal baby.
Right. Well, because the funny thing is about the Game of Thrones universe that I've noticed is that it's like almost like the further south you go, the more like liberal and reasonable like the people get. Like the Highgarden, like the Tyrells and Highgarden, like they're all like
Tyrells are chill as fuck.
Right.
I miss the Tyrells, I love them.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about them later in this episode.
They have a significant presence in this episode. Not this episode of the show, but really, but the kind of. But in this episode of Your Boom is in the Shot.
Right.
A couple other things happen in this episode though that need to be mentioned. First of all, Ramsay gets Reek to stop being Reek for a minute, be Theon, and help him take Moat Cailin, which causes his father, Roose Bolton, to legitimize him as a Bolton. He stops being Ramsay Snow in this episode, becomes Ramsay Bolton. Grey Worm also walks in on Missandei bathing. Starts that little
important side arc.
Love arc, yeah. And
hey man, I can have love too.
The second most significant thing that happens in this episode, other than the fight, is Littlefinger's little trial for the death of Lysa Arryn, where Sansa lies for him, but then reveals that, hey, I didn't do that for you, bro. I did it for me. And that's when we start to see that
Sansa's coming into her own. She's had, and up to this point in the show, she's been shit on.
Yeah.
And part of it is her own fault. I mean, when she, like, the season 1, season 2 stuff, I mean, like, Sansa brought it on herself.
Yeah.
But she was young and immature, and she's not like Arya.
She's learning at this point, and she starts learning from Littlefinger, really. And, you know, she started learning a little from Cersei, but she starts really learning from Littlefinger's machinations, which, you know, I think that really starts showing itself in this episode. And
I think
really,
she learns from everybody there. I mean, she learns from Joffrey. She learns from...
Even learns from Ramsay.
Yeah. Well, he rapes her, and then and I think
but
in
the way
every
that
single...
she dispatches him later on.
Oh man.
Yeah, shows that she is a good pupil.
Yes, she's good people.
But one more thing,
maybe not at first
about this episode, unless you have anything else you want to say, is
not that I can think of.
The set design in that fight is really gorgeous. The whole like little arena that they have has these just beautiful designs on the floor.
For sure.
That like really kind of juxtapose the horror of it. And there's also like on this shore, and there's like, you know, the ocean and the rocks, and it's really beautiful.
Well, the Red Keep has always been beautiful. Like that's always been like a big aspect of how they ran the show. Is that this is? I mean, I don't remember the location they shot in, but it was some remote, beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, the point is that I've always thought that's been an interesting thing, because you look at the Red Keep, and it's always been like this place where only awful things happen.
Yeah.
Basically, like nothing good happens. But
even though it's this place of like extravagance.
Yeah. But then at the same time, I feel like Dorne is even more like Dorne is more beautiful than anywhere else in the show.
It's definitely more exotic.
Well, that's true.
At least there's definitely places in Essos that are more exotic, perhaps. But out of everything on Westeros,
I think there are places in Essos where it gets strange.
Well, like Vice Dothrak.
Maybe not even Vice Dothrak. Like Vice Dothrak, I can get behind, because
like Marine gets kind of weird sometimes.
Yeah, well, with like those the priest dudes, like the wizard guys. Remember the bald wizard guys? That like I don't even remember who they were the ones they're like screwing with. Daenerys.
In Karth.
Yes, yeah, right? Those guys.
Yeah, that whole little
like cult
diversion, and he wants the wizard guy wants to steal her dragons. And she fucks him up. Yeah, and she has the vision of
exactly. Yes,
of the Iron Throne covered in snow. We'll get to that in our predictions episode, but yes.
But like I just mean that like there are things that like that was weird, and I didn't understand. Like Vice Dothraki, like the Dothraki are clearly some sort of like pseudo Mongolian / Egyptian / like sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right. And their entity is familiar in a lot of ways. But when you look at like some of the stuff that's happening in Ethos, like those weird wizard dudes who were trying to steal the dragons, that's like to me is just bizarre.
But then by comparison, like Braavos is just so normal.
Yeah, well,
like nobody knows that the Faceless Men are a thing other than
the free city of Braavos
Men, like,
sounds like the most traditional fantasy city of any of the ones. Well,
and when Arya arrives at the end of season 4, episode 10, The Children, you kind of get that swell of the music, and you see the giant, statue as she's arriving, and it's this beautiful, like, fantastical city.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot of rich lore behind a lot of these places that they don't really go super deep into the show.
Danny gets a fucking pyramid.
Yeah, that's true.
That's also in Essos.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of weird stuff happens there. But I mean, like, just a quick tangent on Braavos. Braavos is so cool. I mean, like, have you ever read
of it? I don't think.
No, not at all. Have you ever read the history of Braavos and how it started off? And it's like the Iron Bank. So Braavos started because of the Iron Bank, if I remember correctly. And you guys out there, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going off of memory on this. But my recollection was that it all started with like these people who had the only bank in the world, and it was an impenetrable bank, and they built the entire city around it. So like the entire city of Braavos was built around the Iron Bank, and it became the most prosperous city because the Iron Bank was the most successful bank, and like the only
still
is. Yeah, I don't know. Just there's a lot of like weird, really crazy, interesting things that happen in the lore.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like I have read about that somewhere, but it's been a while since I've done a deep dive on the lore.
That's more relevant than...
so our next episode on our list, just to keep the ball rolling.
And this is number
8. Number 8 is season 5, episode 10. It's the first season finale on our list. Mother's Mercy.
This episode was wild.
This one's known for a lot of things. I think the two most significant things are that it's Cersei's Walk of Shame.
Yeah.
Which is some of the most amazing acting, and if I'm not mistaken, Lena Headey got nominated for an Emmy for her performance in this episode. Totally justified on the way you see her go from confident to completely broken in this walk is
what a psychological episode. I mean, like some of these episodes are like violent, extravagant, but this episode was such
like subtle CGI that was really well executed. Like she's on a body double, swap, and it's totally seamless. The other thing is that the Night's Watch kill Jon.
Yeah,
and that's how the episode ends.
But or
do they?
And I think that we're underplaying this a little bit, because I don't know if you remember watching that as it happened.
It was the last scene of the season finale. We sat on this for a year going, Jon Snow's dead.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like we literally, having watched the show up till now, Jon has been one of the characters that I can speak for most of us in saying that he was one of the characters that
him and Daenerys have the most obvious hero journeys of anybody.
Right. So when Jon Snow is blatantly killed, right, and it's unclear what's going to happen to him, I mean, that was...
Yeah.
And at this point, the show has already diverged from the books enough that it's feasible that they could have just let him be dead.
That was a cliffhanger and a half.
Like, oh my God. That was crazy. That was
and like it wasn't really as shocking as earlier huge significant deaths that we'll get into later in the episode, because we had those things that had happened, so it wasn't like unprecedented, but it still was like, really, Jon?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, I mean, when you look at like Robert or
Eddard,
Ned, any of these people, like they're big. Like I think Ned was shocking. Ned was equally as shocking as Jon. But I think that I think we get a little bit desensitized, but Jon is untouchable at this point in the show. I mean, he has got his own arc that's unfinished, you know? Like,
well, it was the same. It's him and Daenerys are like the two where you're like, okay, they actually have legitimate plot armor.
Well, and they they also are existing in a setting in the show that's separate from the rest of the main plot. I mean, there are really 3 environments that the show is taking place in. The main Westeros like continent, which is the Seven Kingdoms drama. So like the stuff that's happening in the Red Keep, and the stuff that's happening with the Brotherhood Without Banners, and the stuff that's happening with all of the different houses. Then you have the Essos stuff. So you have all of the Daenerys stuff with the Dothraki and all of the different free cities. And then you have the stuff that's happening on the Wall. Yep. And those are our 3 areas. Those are our 3 main locations. Like their
own isolated little things that are happening.
And the only main character that exists on the Wall is Jon.
And Sam.
But Sam is there as a supporting actor or supporting character to John.
Yeah.
Sam is John's friend. I mean, it's not like we started season 1 with Sam in the show.
We did.
Well, from
no, I know what you're saying.
We did, but he's not
as significant as he is now,
and he's not episode 1 like best buddy with Sam. I mean, he shows up when John gets to the wall, and Sam is the only person who will be his friend because the rest of them look at him.
Yeah, but I mean, I actually forgot until like a recent rewatch that Sam was actually on the show that early.
He was in episode 1?
No, but he's in season 1.
But yeah, because he shows up as soon as John gets to the wall.
Because John sympathizes with him because he's like, oh, they're treating you like shit just like they treat me like shit.
Because and it's partially because they're both lordlings. The difference is that John, being the son of Ned, is a competent fighter. In fact, a really, really good fighter. Yeah. And Sam, unfortunately, is a book reading, fat kid. Yeah.
His horrible dad, literally was like, you're either going to go to the wall or I'm going to have you killed. Yeah. Because you're fat.
Because, his dad's
and a bad fighter. Yeah. And his dad gets his comeuppance later on, though.
Doesn't his dad have a Valyrian steel sword, too? We were talking about that earlier.
Did.
Yeah. What happened to that?
Sam took it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I was like, why? I was in my head, and I'm like, we were talking about Valyrian steel swords and who has them earlier. That'll feature in our predictions episode. But I was like, his family had a Valyrian steel sword too.
Yeah,
and that's why I remembered.
Yeah, Sam has it now.
You're right.
So a few other things that happen in this episode is Drogon leaves Dany with the Dothraki, and that's how she gets the Dothraki, because in season 6 she ends up, burning down the.
Well, and this is another cliffhanger because it's kind of
what the fuck? Because the Dothraki take her and just ride off, and you're like, whoa.
Are they gonna?
And she also leaves her city behind. Yes. With her advisors who are like, what do we do now?
And the other thing is that by that point in the show, she's no longer affiliated with the Dothraki.
Yeah.
And Khal Drogo's Khalisar, whatever, his herd is broken up.
Yeah.
So
there's a different call now.
Yeah.
And so she gets sent to live with the former Khaleesi's.
Yeah. Yeah. But at that point in the show, we're like, well, what's going to happen to her?
Right. Yeah. We don't know any of that yet.
Khal Drogo there's no Khal Drogo to protect her.
Yeah.
And she's abandoned the
Marine.
Yeah. So it's like,
I forget which city
whatever city.
Whatever one of those
right.
two.
But the point is that that's a cliffhanger. So we don't know what's happening to Dany. We don't know John is just dead. John has been murdered.
And then the other really big cliffhanger is that after Arya kills Sir Meryn Trant with her face swapping powers, they blind her for breaking the rules, and we're left on Arya just being blind.
So we're left at the end of the season wondering what's going to happen to all of the Stark children.
Yeah,
because we don't know what they could all be dead by the beginning of the season.
Yeah, because Sansa, I think the end of season 5 is when Sansa escapes Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah, jumps off the side of the
and she's on the run. So we're like, what's going on with her?
Right. So this was literally like a point in the show where we're.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's
hanging literally
on for your life, man.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why this episode is so important, because in other parts of the show there was something happening to hold on to grasp some level of hope, and I think.
Because even when Ned died, you knew that his kids were
right, and you had Robert out there who had already started the rebellion and had already been basically named king in the North. I mean, he was the king, you had Robert to attach your lost Ned hopes to, but now all of those powerful Stark figures are gone. Catelyn's gone, Ned's gone,
it's true.
Robert's gone, Jon is gone,
Bran is up.
Bran is not Bran anymore.
He actually sits this whole season out.
Yeah.
Sits all of season 5 out. There's no Bran at all. But we know he's up with the three-eyed raven somewhere.
Right, doing some
three-eyed raven
doing
shit.
not things that Bran does, things that three-eyed ravens do.
Rickon is just AWOL.
Rickon is, he's off on the island or whatever.
Does Ramsay have him at this point? I think Ramsay already has him. I think we already know Ramsay has him. And I'm not definite on that. I don't know. But either way, Rickon has never been consequential to the plot.
He got sent off to an island to be out of the plot for the most of the show. But yeah, I mean, but we don't have any the Stark family, who's the original sort of protagonists of the Game of Thrones story, are all in question.
Yeah, well, and also in addition to the Starks, kind of the whole storyline for the Lannisters is really left up in the air as well, because you have that you're like, okay, so Joffrey's dead, and we're like, whatever, we hated him anyway, and Tommen's been king for a little while. Marcella was off in Dorne, with Prince Tristane. And so you're like, oh, I guess everything's going okay for like the Lannister kids,
which kind of sucks.
And then Marcella has this really beautiful, like heartwarming.
Oh my goodness.
Father-daughter
break
moment
my heart,
with Jamie.
TJ.
I know, it broke my heart, man. I like wept.
Marcella was the only good one.
She's such a just genuinely good human being, and she has this moment with Jamie on the boat back from Dorne to King's Landing, and she says, "Hey, listen, like, I know you're not my uncle. Like, I know you're my dad,
right.
and that's okay because I love you." And he like has this great moment with her, and then her nose starts bleeding,
and
and she dies because she got kissed by Alaria Sand, who was getting revenge for Oberyn dying in The Mountain and the Viper, because he was defending Tyrion, who was a Lannister.
Yeah,
and in her roundabout way, she was like, revenge.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So,
Jesus Christ.
And that continues on into the most recent season.
Yes, right.
Kind of battle back and forth. Yeah,
comes back and gets her revenge for the revenge, and I mean, seriously,
the threads that this show weaves through seasons, it really pays off people who like pay attention and keep up with stuff.
And season 6 is wild because season 6 ends with Cersei coming out on top. Yeah, which
and
another
Jamie
topic. But like, and
what the fuck
again,
happened?
another thing we're going to go into in predictions. But why don't we get on to the next episode?
The next episode. Some people are probably going to get a little mad at us for ranking this as far back as we did, but it still made the top 10. Season 5, episode 8, Hardhome. So obviously, the Battle of Hardhome takes place.
I don't know
if
we're gonna get.
Well, it's just people.
A lot of flack from this one.
People really worship this episode. And
really?
Yeah. At least that's been my impression, and rightfully so. I mean,
it's a good episode.
The whole Hardhome sequence is incredible. Right?
Oh yeah, sure.
And that's why it made our list, is because the whole last like 20-25 minutes or so of the episode, that is that sequence with the wildlings dying and the Night King rising them back up, and the battle with Jon, where Jon finds out that his Valyrian steel sword Longclaw can defeat
the White Walkers. Yeah.
And again, it's that iconic scene of the Night King like rising.
That's
so awesome that even though there's no really other super consequential stuff that happens in this episode, other stuff happens. There's some Arya stuff that happens, but like,
it's all set up for later plot stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, every other episode, and every other episode in our list, every scene has been like, fuck. It's like something crazy is happening. And this show, or this episode, I think it made our list, and it made it pretty high on our list, considering it has one relevant scene.
It's because that scene is so good.
Yeah,
or that series of scenes.
Or that sequence.
Is just so good. And that was, if I'm not mistaken, Miguel Sapochnik's first episode as a director of Game of Thrones. And he's gone on to become like their big like battle director. He went on to direct Battle of the Bastards. He went on to direct The Winds of Winter.
Oh my goodness.
And he's I think he directs 3 episodes from the final season. So he's a big deal on the show now. And his episodes are some of the best.
Yeah, for sure.
Undoubtedly. So that's another reason why Hardhome is significant. There's also another thing. There's a wildling character that like they really like in just like a few minutes they get us to really sympathize with, and then they kill her, and it's like it's gut wrenching when it happens. Yeah. So this episode's cool.
Yeah, it would definitely.
There's just not a lot to really say about it other than that. Yeah. The cinematography is really great in that fight, but
I mean, like, there are other episodes on our list which we have more to say about, I think. And I think this episode made it on by like, I don't know if I want to say star power.
I think. It's just appreciation for the craft of that sequence in particular.
It took it a long way, because I think it's definitely like top 5 or maybe even top 3 of iconic sequences in the show.
I mean, that's maybe arguably the most iconic image of the series now is the Night King with his arms up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's Hardhome. But just for the sake of, again, more consequential episodes in a lot of ways, at least like, with more scenes that have consequence, we'll just keep this moving. Number 6 on our list, almost halfway there. The only season 7 episode to make our top 10. Look, I love season 7. I know you did too, but this episode was like definitely the best episode of the season.
Season 7 was a setup for season 8.
That's true.
I think in a lot of ways.
Season 7, episode 4, Spoils of War.
Oh, God,
this one is this one has a few cool things that happen, but the most notable one is that Dany has enough of this losing the war bullshit, and she attacks the Lannisters who are carrying the gold that they took from the Tyrells. In the last episode, she attacks them and their gold trail, with Jaime and Bronn there, as well as Sam's
right.
father and brother.
So I want to stop
and the Dothraki.
I want to stop you right there, though. So I don't know if you had this experience, but every single scene in that episode was like, is Bronn and Jaime gonna die?
Yeah, yeah.
Are Bronn and Jaime gonna die? Are Bronn and Jaime gonna die?
That's really, and the showrunners Benioff and Weiss have talked about this. That's like the first episode where like you don't know what side you're
to
on.
root for. Yes,
you're like, I don't want Jaime and Bronn to die, but I want Daenerys to be triumphant.
Dany needs to get the gold.
Yeah,
but Bronn and Jaime can't die. If Bronn and Jaime die, then I'm gonna be so upset.
Right,
and it's like. Because we love Bronn, right?
Bronn
is like the great
firing up the
supporting
giant
character.
crossbow. You're like, oh,
stop
Bronn,
doing that,
Bronn. Fuck
stop.
the dragon up. At the same time, you're like, dragon, don't get hit.
Yes,
like,
right. And then you're like, dragon, don't go down and burn Bronn while he's on the crossbow.
Jaime, don't try to kill Daenerys.
Oh my God,
with
right?
That spear. And literally Tyrion's watching on, and he's like, you fucking
don't
idiot.
do it. Yeah, don't. Right, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Yes, and he survives by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah. Like, ultimately, they all pretty much survive this episode.
Everybody except for the father and the son.
Well, they die in the next episode.
Oh, they die in the next episode.
The next episode.
All right, the aftermath of spoils.
So Samwell Tarly is the last like male Tarly. He's like the heir to that house now.
Yeah,
she kills his older brother and father.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's just an amazing sequence. I remember when I saw that. I was watching it with my family. Actually, a lot of times I watch Game of Thrones alone, but sometimes I watch it with my parents because they're also huge fans.
Yeah.
And I watched that one with them, and I remember when we were watching it, there's the scene where there's just a little bit of banter between Jaime and Bronn and Dickon about his funny name and his experience with war and everything. And then Bronn's like, "You hear that?" And like, you don't really hear it as a viewer yet. And Jaime's like, "No," and he's like, "Listen." And like, you start to hear like the hooves, and then you see the Dothraki
horde,
the
Dothraki screamers,
and then they jump up onto their horses with their bows drawn, and then all of a sudden you hear the screech, and Drogon drops out of the sky, and it's just the most epic shit. And the Lannisters are like, hold the line, and it's something epic is happening. No,
and like. This is hinted at in one of the very first episodes, and I think it is the first episode when Viserys is talking to Dany about how he would let every single one of Khal Drogo's horde fuck her if it meant he would get his army. And he's talking and he talks about the screamers, and I don't know if this is just in the books because I'm in the process of rereading the books, but he says that like they can't stand up to 10,000 Dothraki screamers. No one in the world can stand up to 10,000 Dothraki screamers.
No, and not even the Lannisters. And like, and also the practical effects in this episode are bonkers. Like every exploding wagon is an actual
exploding wagon. Yeah.
And like, and there's like guys who like get lit on fire in this, like, and then like they were talking about how dangerous it was on the set to like shoot this sequence. Like the guys like in like the, flame retardant suits.
Yeah, the full body suits.
And they had to like, they could shoot it for like only a number of seconds, and they had to come in and like put them out.
Yeah,
like, but they went that far with this, and it pays off because this episode is thrilling, and then it ends on a cliffhanger. Yeah, because Jaime falls into the water and he's sinking.
You don't know
in
if
his
he's dead or
armor,
not,
and you're like, oh my god.
Yes,
and it turns out that it's only like 2 feet deep, and he's fine. But we watch so much more with Bronn in the next episode. But
God, we love Bronn.
Yeah,
Bronn is
war.
Bronn is another one of those characters who I've got such an intense love for.
I feel the same way about Bronn that I do about the Hound. That like he's kind of a shit, but you love him.
He's a lovable misfit.
Yeah,
and Bronn is great because Bronn is so much better than he or anybody else in the show gives him credit for.
Oh yeah,
he's an amazing fighter.
Yep.
And it's partially because he doesn't. He
just wants money and bitches. Like that's his motto.
He wants a castle. That's his whole thing. He wants a castle, and he's like, "Will I get a castle if I do this?" And it's like, "Will you give me a castle?"
But he also tells Jaime, he's like, "I'm not going to be here when the dragon comes to burn down the Red Keep. Like, fuck you."
Yeah, right. Like, man, Bronn is the real motherfucker.
He keeps it real. So this episode made it like not only on our list, but as far down our list as it did. Not just because of that sequence, but also because there's other great stuff that happens in this episode, like Arya finally returns to Winterfell.
Yeah,
like that's incredibly significant.
Oh my
she
god!
Been there
and all of the near
1.
misses, and all of the near misses of Stark children
almost
seeing
reuniting
other Stark
with Robb and Catelyn.
Yep.
Almost reuniting with Sansa at the Eyrie.
Yeah.
Or the Vale.
The Vale.
Yeah. And it finally happens, and she has a warm moment with Sansa and the Crypts. Also fucks with those guards, which is hilarious. Yeah, it's a great episode. And also Littlefinger gives Bran back the Valyrian dagger that originally was meant to kill him, and that went on the whole like Tyrion did it thing with Catelyn. That is the reason Bronn is on the show.
Yeah, that's right.
Also, Jon shows Dany the Dragonglass mines and some of the cave drawings from the First Men. So,
and we get to finally get some of that lore about the original, like the origins of the show, which is prevalent in the books heavily, but not so much in the show, because the show is more about that Game of Thrones than it is about that. Right. The winter is coming.
And that's what it's become more about now. It's become more about the fantasy and less about like the political intrigue.
Because at this point, the political intrigue is kind of, the players are getting sparse. The game is getting close to its end. And now the real threat is coming.
Well, I mean, Cersei wiped off most of the chessboard. So.
In one fell swoop.
We'll get that.
We're going to get to that soon.
Okay, so just keep it moving along. Our number 5, we are halfway there now. Ben really
is one of my favorite
for this
episodes.
one. I didn't disagree with him, but he convinced me to put this as high as we did, because I wouldn't have thought to put this as high as I did, but once Ben had defended it, I agreed to. I felt that he had proven his point.
Watchers on the Wall.
Yes, season 4, episode 9, another epic penultimate episode, as Game of Thrones is known for, the Watchers on the Wall. This is the one where the wildlings attack Castle Black and Ygritte dies.
All right, so just those two facts alone, like, wow.
Ben, why don't you tell them about that crane shot?
All right.
You were gushing about earlier.
All right, so like when I watched this is when I first started getting into film, and one of the things that I would absolutely blew my mind about this episode was I actually watched I think it was on the Blu-ray, and they talked about how they filmed that shot, and they had actually basically gotten all of their actors, all of the extras, all of the stuntmen, and all of the actors in that scene, and they established them in this huge 3-dimensional stage, and they were all set in like sequences, and they did one really long shot of this crane rotating around this giant circle, and as the camera got to a scene, their action would begin, and it all happened in this big fluid chain. And it's like, that's incredible choreography. That's incredible cinematography. I mean, to pull that off is impressive in and of itself. And I think that that's indicative of a sort of production value that we don't see in television.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one of the significant things about Game of Thrones is that like they can make like basically movie quality like action and tell it on a movie scale, on TV. And that's why it's must-watch television. Yeah. Like among other reasons, but that's one of the main ones right there.
But I mean, even in that scene, like, I mean, we talk about all of the great choreography in the show, and I think there's something to be said. I'm a big fan of combat purism in that, like, I like really realistic fighting.
It's really brutal. The fighting in this episode is perhaps the most brutal battle like of the show, with maybe the exception of Blackwater.
I think Brothers, the Battle of the Bastards is so much more.
Well, I just think this is like, it's because it just feels so much, I guess, bloodier and like intimate in a violent way. Like the scale is so much different on that one.
Battle of the Bastards is a large scale fight. Yeah. This is a small scale fight in a small space with a lot of,
and also
really
keeping the
fighting.
Cinematography talk going. Like, not only do they do a really great job of like following everyone around this tiny little area and keeping them into their own little sequences that we can still follow along with, despite all like the chaos. But there's also when Ygritte dies, and there's that scene I was telling you about earlier. Everything, you get that like that epic kind of battle shot where like he's holding his dying loved one, and like you see the chaos behind them, but we just get this slow, quiet moment with them. Yeah, and she's like, "We should have stayed in that cave." And it's just like your heart just wrenches.
Yeah. Oh my God. And I remember right before that happens, you see that she's, it's her and Jon, and she's going to kill Jon because she has to. Yeah. And then she gets riddled with arrows, and then the camera pulls back, and it's Ollie. He's like, I did the right thing, Jon. Be proud of me, because Jon is Ollie's hero.
Right. Yeah. And it's for now, and it's easy to forget, but the love between Jon and Ygritte was like really significant to his story and to the show. It was a beautiful thing. To the point where they had so much chemistry, they got married in real life.
Yeah,
like they are a husband and wife in real life.
Yeah, and I mean, even in the show, they like she changed his whole perspective on what wildlings are.
She took his V card.
She took his V card. That's right.
Yep. Yeah, no, this is a great episode. That's pretty much the entire episode, really.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a few other little things that happen, but it's just epic, and it's really awesome. And it was like one of the first, like really big, massive, like, threw a lot of money into a battle scenes that is, and it was also entirely practical.
And and it was also one of the first real full battle scenes that we see. I mean, there are a lot of small
fighting
ones.
styles too, with like the Fens, as well as some of the other wildlings, and the more sword play of the Night's Watch. So there's that kind of element to it too. And I know you as like a big like battle and weaponry guy, like that's.
So it's a side hobby.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones is notoriously bad about being realistic in combat. I mean, like people's armor is one of the things about Game of Thrones is that armor tends to be paper thin. Mm-hmm. You might be wearing a big metal breastplate, but somebody can hit you with a stick and you die.
Like the Hound when he cuts Beric Dondarrion basically in half.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like,
I don't know about that.
Might have clanked off of his armor.
Yeah,
it's pretty thick armor.
Some of the armor just doesn't make any sense in general when you look at it. I mean, like.
Yeah. Or like you were saying, the fact that 1-1 doesn't wear any armor.
1-1
He's a giant, he doesn't need it.
Well, yes, he does, because he gets his ass killed.
Yeah, he does. To be fair, I don't know how much armor you can wear on your eyeball, but still.
But he would have never gotten shot in the eyeball if he wasn't, brought to his knees by all of the arrows that were sticking out of him already.
True.
I mean,
Fair enough.
So even if he's a giant, right? He's super strong. I mean, even if they put wooden armor on him, it would have been more effective. If they plastered him in shields, like little shields, they just sewed them onto his coat. Like that would have been more effective than what they sent 1-1 into the battle.
Put some chainmail on him.
Put some chainmail. He would have been more effective from a strategic And obviously it's a show, and nobody else cares as much about this as I do, but it would have been smarter to take 50 dudes and not give them chainmail, to give 1-1 chainmail.
Earlier. I was like, honestly, that's not wrong.
I mean, if you were unable to wound 1-1, he's essentially having a tank.
That's your trump card.
That's like having a tank in a fight where that's like it's literally like bringing a tank to a sword fight.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean,
he busts down the door of Winterfell. We'll get to that in a minute.
With his bare hands.
Yeah. Okay, so we have to keep this moving because we
don't we're running out of time here, guys.
Left in our studio space. But
we got 5 episodes left to cover. Right? Shit.
Well, we'll get through it. This next episode is a massively significant episode in the history of Game of Thrones, and that is another penultimate episode, season 3, episode 9, The Reigns of Castamere, better known as the Red Wedding.
I don't think we have to linger on this one too long. No. You guys know what the Red Wedding is.
Basically, so first of all, the other thing that happens is Dany takes control of Yunkai. Jon and the Wildlings almost encounter Bran, and then Jon leaves the Wildlings, and that's where they first split, and he's no longer friends with them. And Bran shows that he's capable of warging into people. He wargs into Hodor.
Oh yeah, that's right. Hold the door.
The door has further consequence later. That's another heart-wrenching thing. But this is the first time we see him do it.
Yes, that's true.
So significant for that. But also the Red Wedding. So we were shocked by earlier, significant deaths. I know I keep hinting, but I'm saving it for a reason. Other significant deaths within the chronology of the show by the time that this episode came out. But so many and so brutally.
This was a big power shift
dies.
For the show.
Yeah.
Because Robb was riding the high.
Becomes the Warden of the North.
Yep.
Literally, Tywin just shows that he's not to be fucked with.
Yeah.
This is all orchestrated by Tywin.
The whole power dynamic of the show changes at the Red Wedding, because up until this point, Robert is the king in the North, not just the Warden of the North, the king in the North. Yeah. And he's leading a winning rebellion.
His beloved Talisa, who is arguably the reason why this happens, because he falls in love with her and agrees to be with her instead of marrying one of Walder Frey's daughters.
Granted, she was already pregnant, so he got her pregnant.
So she's pregnant at this point, and she gets stabbed in the stomach, repeatedly. Well,
in the womb,
right there, right on the baby. Yeah, that's what happens. But also the way that this scene unfolds is amazing. There's this really there's this slow building of the foreshadowing till it gets to it, where Catelyn, she hears the Reigns of Castamere being played. She sees the chainmail on Roose, and then she realizes, as we realize, something's going on here.
Yeah.
And then Arya, like we said earlier on, their high almost encounter them, and she sees they've killed Robb, and they've killed Robb's direwolf, and have put his head on Robb's body. Bad stuff. So a shocking episode. Another shocking episode is number 3 on our list, season 1, episode 9.
Did we skip
Baylor?
4?
No, that was 4.
Oh, okay.
So number 3 is season 1, episode 9, Baylor. This is the one where Ned gets his head cut off. This was the episode where they could change TV forever. Like, honestly, like before that, you're like, you don't kill the main character. Like, and we're following Sean Bean, the most famous actor on the show at this point. Yeah. And we're like, oh yeah, he's the hero of the show. He's like the Rick Grimes, right?
Right.
And like that's what you're thinking. And they kill him.
Yeah.
They kill him.
Straight out.
In season 1, they kill him. And it's just shocking. And then it's another like cut to black.
Yeah, and I think that's what launched the show into such success because it became
people were talking about it. People were like,
what happens? Like, what do we do now? They killed Ned.
Well, also it sets the stakes because it shows you like anybody can die on the show. Like, don't ever think this character is safe. Don't ever think this character is safe.
I remember that was a big thing when when we were talking about it, like, don't get too attached to anybody. Right. Everybody's up for grabs.
We were like, it's just like, we were just thinking about it like any other show. And when that happens, you go, Arya could die, Sansa could die, Jon could die, Dany could die, Robb could die.
And no one was established enough by the end of season 1 more than Ned, so anybody could go.
And so it makes the rest of the show that much more thrilling by showing that
who's going to survive and who's not. Moving on.
Yeah, Robb also beats the Lannisters and captures Jaime in this one.
That was a pretty badass.
And he makes the promise to Walder that he breaks. And Jon gets Longclaw.
Oh, Jon gets Longclaw. Important scene in the show.
His Valyrian steel sword. Our number 2, which almost made number 1, and number 1 almost made number 2, because they're both they're equally
good. They could fit in either position.
Yeah, I refer to them as the 2 most perfect hours of television I've ever seen. So number 2 is season 6, episode 10, The Winds of Winter. This is the one where Cersei blows up the fucking Sept of Baelor and wipes off the checkerboard.
And then Tommen walks out of the window.
Exits stage right to his death.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
what an episode.
Crazy. It's
what
crazy.
An episode.
I wish we had a little more time to talk about it, but basically just the tension that builds for the first half of this episode is
we got 4 minutes
with the score. It's just she pretty much every major character dies. The entire Tyrells except Lady Olenna are just gone.
And she's on her way too.
And
I mean, it's going to happen.
And then Jaime gets back to King's Landing and sees that Cersei's the queen. He's like, our son died. The Sept isn't there anymore. What's going on? And this kind of starts this rift between Cersei and Jaime.
But oh my God, you were talking about how Cersei wiped the chessboard clean.
She did, and it's a moment where like you can't help but root for her because you're like, damn, Cersei.
She's powerful, and she's come back from being the shamed, naked streetwalker. I mean, she
got her redemption, man. A season later, but she got it.
She is the lion. We talk about Jaime being the Lion of Lannister. Cersei is the Lion of Lannister.
And so just to keep it moving, because I know we're really running out of time. Sorry, guys. Dany makes Tyrion her hand.
Yep, important.
Bran, Mira, and Benjen get back to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Sam and Gilly arrive at Old Town. And Arya feeds Walder Frey his sons and then slits his fucking throat.
Let's get our goddamn redemption from our revenge for the Red Wedding.
Yes, and that's exactly what that is. It's all like revenge for the Red Wedding has been had.
Yeah,
and it's amazing. So our last one, you've probably already guessed it because we've been referring to it this whole episode because it's so good, is Season 6, Episode 9, The Battle of the Bastards.
Woo, man.
Neither of whom are actually bastards, by the way.
By the time, Well, I mean, Jon, we still think Jon's a bastard, but that's because we don't know that he's actually a Targaryen.
So Daenerys regains control of Slaver's Bay at this point, and pretty much then the battle. Like that's like the only thing other than the battle that happens. Ramsay kills Rickon.
We could talk for hours about this battle.
And I'm sure we'll get into it more in a future episode.
What a guttural, physical,
so visceral
feeling.
Like I felt every swing of the sword, Jon getting surrounded by men, or like when Jon's on the ground and they're trampling him. I physically felt suffocated when I watched that. I was like, and then when
come out,
get out,
survive.
You get the ex machina of that of it looking like all hope is lost. They've encircled them. It's over. It's done. And then
The Knights
of the Vale, led by Sansa,
Sansa.
and Littlefinger.
Yeah.
Sansa acted on her own again, making power moves like a badass.
Sansa, the real Lady Stoneheart.
Saved. Yes, more Lady Stoneheart in a future episode. Yeah, they come in and they wreck Ramsay's remaining forces. Jon and 1-1 chase Ramsay back to Winterfell. 1-1 makes the sacrifice play you've been referring to. He gets riddled with arrows by Ramsay, and the one that kills him is right in his eye. Jon manages to take a piece of wood and use it as a shield as Ramsay's firing arrows at him. He gets up to Ramsay and he beats him near to death. And then Sansa gets her comeuppance for all the shit that Ramsay did to her, the rape, the locking her up. And she feeds him to his own dogs, his hungry dogs, who he's been starving because he wanted to feed Jon Snow to them.
Yeah.
He feeds him, or she feeds him to those dogs. It's amazing. And again, you're like, fuck yeah, Sansa. Yes.
Fuck yes.
Yes, girl.
And it's funny because, like Jaime, Sansa's a character who I began the show with disdain for.
Yeah.
I mean, after episode 2 or 3, or when
she's being a princess with like
Joffrey. Well, when she gets Nymeria basically
killed. Yeah.
Well, Arya sends Nymeria off instead of her getting killed, but Sansa is the reason that whole thing happens. Because she sided with Joffrey instead of siding with Arya. Because she wanted to be a pretty princess and blah, blah, blah. And Arya wanted to be a badass assassin.
And then, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, it's just...
The point is that Sansa comes into her own.
Yeah, and Miguel Sapochnik's direction, just unbelievable in this. The battle is... It's film worthy.
Yep. We've
beyond TV.
Yeah, we've run out of time.
Incredible.
But honestly... I think that we'll revisit the Battle of the Bastards maybe in its own
for sure
side YouTube thing. So look for YouTube in the coming months.
Yes,
we're gonna figure that out, and we want to talk more about Game of Thrones because TJ and I could do this for hours.
Yeah, if you haven't noticed already, we're super fans of everything that has to do with Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire. So
yeah, all right,
we're obsessed.
This is Ben and TJ signing off.
Yes, peace out, guys.